welcome to another edition of Hot Mamas Living Better at Any Age. I'm your host, Dawnine, and I am so happy that you're taking the time to join me today for another great and informative topic. I know that my guest today is just going to knock your socks off. She is going to motivate and inspire you and give you just some wonderful nuggets that you can take and use in your life today to make your life better. No matter what age you are, no matter where you are in the world, we have a topic today that is going to get you going. So get ready. I can't believe it's already June. The year is halfway over. This is just crazy. Time is flying by. But I am really excited that you have joined me for another Friday Fun Day. And, you know, we always like to end the week with a bang. So wherever you are in the world, if you can, grab your favorite adult beverage, because where I'm broadcasting from live at the Bold radio station, it is noon after all. So I want you to get ready for some fun. And I want to hear from you. You know that this show is all about our listeners. We would not be able to do this show if it were not for you and all of the wonderful feedback that we get. So if you have a question about what we're talking about today, or if you have a question about other show topics that you have already listened to, you can send me an email at onenutritionexpert, that's the number one, nutritionexpert@gmail.com, and I will answer your questions with my guests live on the air. Now, if you are asking a question about a previous show, or if you happen to be listening to this show on the replay on iHeartRadio, I will be glad to answer your email by just replying to your email. So send me an email live today if you're listening live. Otherwise, I will personally answer your email. I do not have a virtual assistant that answers my email. She does other things for me, but she does not answer my email. I personally respond to every single email that you send me. So when you send it, know that you are actually communicating directly with me. So don't be afraid to ask me anything about the show or about health, wellness, nutrition in general, or if you have a question about anything that you see on my website, fitnessnutritionconsulting.com, be sure and reach out to me. I'll be glad to visit with you. So let me talk a little bit about what's been going on in the last week or so. Last week, I talked about how I kind of was going off the grid. Well, last week, I didn't really go completely off the grid. I just backed away from some things, and I had a couple of really big events that I spoke at and just was really exhausted, just mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. And I really felt like I just needed to kind of step back for a little bit, just not quite be as busy and plugged into everything on a daily basis as I usually am. And then finally, over Memorial Day weekend, just this past weekend, I totally went off the grid. I did not open my laptop. I did not use my cell phone. I didn't open up any social media apps. And it was really great because we were down at our beach home and our family was there, and anybody that I needed to be in touch with was right there under the roof with me. So I said, you know what? I don't need this phone. My daughter's here. My husband's here. He was still kind of plugged in because of work. And so if anybody needed us, they could, of course, contact him. But it felt so good to put down my phone and not be plugged in. And the really great thing was I noticed that my daughter and her girlfriend did the same thing. And they're millennials. They're both 24, 25 years old. And when I noticed that I didn't see them constantly with their phone in their hand or their face in their phone, I asked them, I said, so what gives? I never see you guys without your phones. Well, they were both kind of feeling the same way. They are both in social work and just were overwhelmed with exhaustion from the kind of things that they see on a daily basis and the people and situations they deal with. And they both needed to unplug. So for the entire weekend, we played games, we played cards, we hung out on the beach, we cooked, and we did not pick up our phones. We were totally unplugged, and it felt great. And it really did energize me to be able to kind of jump back into things slowly. I'm not completely back to the craziness that is my life on a daily basis with all the different things that I do, but it at least gave me the chance to kind of step back and reassess some things and reprioritize some things. So I'm telling you this again because I want to emphasize how important it is that you take care of your inner self and that you practice good self-care. And I'm talking about self-care beyond manicures, pedicures, haircuts, hair color, all those things that we do to make ourselves look good and feel good on the surface. I'm talking about the deeper stuff that we sometimes need to take care of. So be sure that you listen to that inner voice that's telling you it's time to step away, it's time to unplug, it's time to regenerate, and just take some time, even if it's just for a half a day, or even if it's just for a couple of hours, just to kind of unplug and go inside yourself and take some time to really assess what's going on and why you're feeling overwhelmed or why you feel like you need to maybe take some time away from the daily grind, because it really will make you feel better. So the summer yoga schedule is still just going crazy, and I've actually added some classes that will start in July. So for now, I'm still doing the Wednesday 6:30 p.m. Hatha yoga class at Powerhouse in Port Neches, and we are going to add 2 more classes starting in July. Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. We will also have Hatha yoga. We might be doing some other morning classes as well, but for now, my schedule is going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then also at Exogen, I will be subbing starting at the end of June for Melody. So if you are accustomed to going to her classes at lunchtime on Wednesdays from 12:15 to 12:45 and on Thursday evenings at 7 p.m., I will be subbing for her starting the week of June the 26th. So I look forward to seeing you in my classes. And if you have questions, if you've never done yoga before, if you're not sure about it, send me an email. I'll be glad to email with you or get on the phone with you or do a Skype call with you or a Zoom meeting and just talk to you a little bit about yoga, because it really is a great form of exercise. It's a great workout. You do burn calories. You do get muscle fatigue, and you will sleep like a baby after those evening classes. Also, The Journey to Never Giving Up, the new book that I have launched with my wonderful publisher, Jody Harris, and my co-authors, Judith Inglesby and Kelly Clanton-Cox. Our book is a bestseller on Amazon. We are working our way towards becoming a New York Times bestseller. So if you have not yet purchased your copy, go to Amazon.com. This is the most unique book that you will have in your library, I promise you. There are riddles that are buried inside the text of the book. And when you find the riddles and you think you have the answer to it, you go on to our webpage, which is thejourneytonevergivingup.com, and you'll find on the drop-down menu that there is a place where you can put in the riddle that you found, your answer to it, and your contact information, and then you will be in the running for one of 40 different gifts that total $20,000. So be sure that you get your copy of the book, and as you find those riddles, that you log on to our website, thejourneytonevergivingup.com, and give us your answers. We are going to have 2 book signing events in Oklahoma City the week of June the 19th. We're doing one on June 21st and one on June 22nd. And they will be in 2 different locations. They're going to be lots of fun. It's not going to be just a come meet the authors and get your signed copy of the book. We're actually going to have a scavenger hunt to win some of the prizes that we have available in the book. So there's going to be basically a celebration, not so much as just a sit-down book signing and meet the authors and that kind of thing. But we do want you to come out and meet us and take pictures with us and all that good stuff. So we will be sharing more information about the locations, the times, and how you can participate in our book celebrations for The Journey to Never Giving Up in Oklahoma City the week of June 19th. So now I want to move into our topic for today. And our topic today is authenticity and vulnerability. Leverage your advantages. Now, hearing that, you're probably thinking, okay, what on earth is Dawnine talking about today? But I want to introduce you to my guest. And this is somebody that I've known since we were both in junior high school, about the 7th or 8th grade. We have known each other all that time, and now we're both in our 50s. And we reconnected with each other a few years ago on Facebook, of all things, and have developed a new friendship as middle-aged women. And she has opened up a world of other people to me. I've met all kinds of people through my friend Kat Willeford, who have just really opened up my life and expanded my business. So I'm just thrilled to have her as a guest today. She is a pioneer in the field of coaching and coach training. She is a transformational self-development coach, speaker, and author. She received one of the first 6 coaching certifications in the United States. She has appeared as a guest expert on the Maury Povich Show. She's been featured in the Los Angeles Times, and she has coached live on LA's ABC Talk Radio. So, Kat Willeford, welcome to Hot Mamas.
Woo, Hot Mama. So glad to be here with you.
And it's nice to have another Texas twang on the air with me.
You know, it's so funny because I've lived in California for so long now, I kind of lose it. And then as soon as I talk to my mom or I hear some, like I'm talking with you, it comes right back. Or if I have a cocktail, it comes right back.
That is so funny. Well, I know that you have a new program that is based on authenticity, but I want to ask you about authenticity and vulnerability. So what are the practical applications of these two things in our lives?
Awesome question. So first thing, here's why they're tied. It is really darn hard to be completely authentic if you're not vulnerable. And I say that in that the first place we want to be vulnerable is with ourselves. I like to say that vulnerability is simply allowing yourself to hear your truth, to know your truth, to stand in your truth. And for a lot of us here at middle age, we've spent so much time focusing in the outer world, whether it was with the family we were helping to raise and be in, whether it was with the work we're engaged in and involved with, all of these things. So here we are in middle age getting to say, wait a minute, who am I right now? You know, maybe some of the roles we used to show up in have changed. So getting familiar with who we are, again, is really important in order to actually create that next wave of whatever we create in the world out there. But it takes that, let's be vulnerable and authentic with ourselves. And, you know, your example of what you just did this last weekend of completely unplugging, that's what it is. That's what it takes. We've got to unplug from all the noise outside of us, and then we have to unplug from the noise in our head, you know, all that noise.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. That's how these two are they're partners. They're partners, authenticity and vulnerability.
I love that because you described something that I went through a few years ago, you know, the empty nest syndrome and the, you know, changing of how your life changes when the kids are grown and gone. And then my husband works out of town, so we don't actually live together. And so, I mean, there were a lot of changes that were going on, and I was getting burned out in my career and thinking, okay, well, who am I and what am I doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's about the time you and I reconnected, and I could hear in you, like, just really this part of you that was ready to roll into a new direction.
Yes, it was. Exactly. It sure was. That's when it really all kind of came together. So you and I are both middle-aged, and I know you have an interesting take on what it means to be a middle-aged woman.
Mm-hmm. I do. You know, when I was approaching the big 5-0, I realized I had a choice. That I could allow an external force called the media to define what and who I should be, which didn't really fit because I've never really listened to that anyway. But I really saw, boy, is this a hard thing for women in our age range to be able to say, you know what, here's how I'm doing this next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how I'm going to do it. And just that very thought of like being able to be the observer of ourselves, like step back. You were talking about like that step back we need to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But to step back and really observe, well, how is it I want to interact? Because this isn't working for me, if that's the case, whether it's in a relationship or at work or whatever. But what's really not working is taking our cues from the media.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it never has. I remember when I revoked my subscription to Cosmopolitan in my maybe my late 20s, I think it was my late 20s, because they showed the woman was in a leather dress that looked like bondage. I thought, no frickin' way. I want my money back, So there's a line we have to draw for ourselves, and whether it's you're approaching, a milestone birthday, or like you said, like, the nest is going to be empty, or another change, like you're moving into a new relationship at midlife, or your parents, we've got parents. A lot of us in the sandwich generation are, we have aging parents, or we've lost one. And so that brings us all these things to the forefront to really consider, who do I want to be in this next part of my life? Because it can actually be the most exciting part of our lives. We've gone through the maiden phase. We've gone through the mother phase, whether we actually brought children into the world or not. We mothered and nurtured something. And so here we are coming into that matriarch space where we're not the crone. We're not in the rocking chair on the porch sipping lemonade yet. We have a lot of energy and a lot of things to offer to people. We've got wisdom and knowledge. So that vulnerability comes in because it's vulnerable to acknowledge that for ourselves, because it's different than what the media or the cultural society has told us.
Yeah. Well, and I've found, being more authentic to who I want to be as I get older makes me more able to share and give my resources and my talents and my gifts to other people who need them.
Yes. And the other thing is, there is truth to the fact that our energy levels can shift here in midlife. I'm not quite the Energizer bunny I was through my 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to actually recharge. I didn't want to I didn't want to stop to recharge in my 20s and 30s. I just went. I was like, brrr.
Yeah, I think we all did that.
Right. So here, that's another piece that we get to like really be at choice, and not live according to somebody else's standard. And that's the biggest key, is to just step away from whatever, and with vulnerability and love and compassion, and just ask, am I living to a standard that isn't mine? Am I living according to a script that I don't want to be in?
Mm-hmm. I see so many of my girlfriends that are our age that are doing that. They're just going with what society says we're supposed to do when we're 51, 52, 53 years old. And I'm going, but you don't have to do that. I mean, I tell them, look at what I've done over the last couple of years. I mean, if somebody told me 2 years ago that I would have 2 best-selling books and all of these, I'd own a radio station, all these other crazy things that I've done, I on the one hand would think, okay, y'all are crazy. But then on the other hand, when I decided that I was going to do something different and I was going to make more of my next decade, that's when things really started to happen. And I've been the most content in myself and in my chosen professions. I have to do that plurally.
Yes.
But it's all because I broke away from the mold. I looked at how my business was going. basically as a brick and mortar and said, I need to do this online. I'll be able to help more people. I'll have more free time. And, when you look inside and you get away from what society thinks we need to be doing at this age, it can really make a huge difference. Huge.
It so can, and you've heard me talk about the masks that we wear. We all wear masks. Let's just say it. Don't have any shame about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. We all wear masks. And the truth is, they developed because we're smart. They developed at a very critical moment when we had to get through something. We had to stay safe. We had to protect ourselves or somebody else. And so we wear the mask. The problem comes in when it becomes habituated. It's like, that for that 1 or 2 sleepless nights, you take, or you drink the glass of milk or you take the whatever over-the-counter sleep aid is. It's not a problem if you do it once every couple of months. It becomes a problem when it's the habit.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing with the masks. The chief operating officer of control, I call her my kook, COOC. She is she's like, all right, this is what we're doing, and here's what we're doing. We're not veering from it, and and that's that. Don't get in my way. Is the message that's signaled out. Well, that's not very vulnerable. That's not very collaborative. It goes against so many of my values. And yet, we can get in those masks, whether it's overgiver. So many women I coach, and, I've been there, the overgiver. And sometimes I step back, what? They didn't even ask for my help. Why are you doing the research on the internet for them when they didn't even ask you for help?
Oh, I've been guilty of that before.
It's like, why don't you go help yourself, Kat? Where was I going with that? See, this is the middle-aged menopausal brain getting to go into tangent and then where we were. This is real, y'all.
It is. And it's, what it reminds me of is pregnancy brain, because, there's a memory lapse that happens when you're pregnant because your hormones are out of control. Well, the same kind of thing happens during menopause. Your hormones are doing weird stuff. You have memory lapses, and it's totally normal. It's totally normal.
And for me, it's like I can still remember like all fine-tooth comb details of like everything else, but like in that moment, I had this like, oh, where were we? Huh?
Uh-huh. Yep. That was something that made me change my law practice when my nutrition business was starting to take off, and the more that I was in court on my feet, having to think on my feet, and I was having to search for words, and it was just unnerving. It made me so mad, and I asked a doctor about that. He said it's absolutely normal. It's a consequence of aging. It's your hormones that are changing. Don't worry about it. Well, I did worry about it because I was a person who was never at a loss for words, and I could always think on the fly and think on my feet and spit things right back out at the judge or another lawyer. And then it was like, I'm not as good as I used to be. I need to do something different. I need to take the tools that I have and pour them into something else, and then let this part of my life go. And it was so freeing. It was so good.
It was totally freeing for you. I can hear it in your voice, and look what you've gotten to create because of it.
Yeah.
And here's the link to vulnerability. You were willing to be vulnerable with yourself and tell yourself the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Something has shifted internally, physiologically, and that's okay. It's normal. There's nothing wrong here. And what do I want to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many times when we come to those vulnerable moments, I mean, for me, it was, I really, really was wanting a baby in my 40s. And I came to that vulnerable moment where I realized, Kat, this isn't going to happen. This is not going to happen. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Wow.
And to tell myself that truth, and I am a crazy, cockeyed optimist. I can spin positive out of anything. So I had that, and that was working for me, because I was not depressed about the whole thing, for a long, long time. But it was just like, when it came to me, and it was it was guttural, those noises that came out of me, the grief and just letting go and the release of that. And that, I think, is what can be so powerful about that vulnerability with ourselves, because that opens the door for change. I didn't have to stay in the bitter or the resentful or the mad or whatever. And by the way, most of it was directed inward. Like, why did you wait so long? What's the matter with you? All the, the mental stuff that we do. And it's the opportunity then, and that door opens, well, so what am I going to do?
Yeah, because you can't just stay stuck where you were.
That's right. So what is this next piece for me, And I love what you were pointing to at the very beginning also about the I need a timeout. I'm going to unplug.
Mm-hmm.
I unplugged for about 2 years.
Wow.
I went radio silent almost everywhere. I mean, I so scaled back, and it was scary. I was like, man, I have built something for the last 20 plus years. Am I really doing this?
Yeah, I bet that was scary.
It was scary, and I had hit that point earlier when I was building my business. No one knew what coaching was in 1994, so I was out speaking every night. I was networking like a crazy fool everywhere, and I was doing about coaching. I was doing speaking engagements, and I hit a wall after about 6 years. I was just fried.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I cannot go to another networking meeting and look at another piece of chicken in a hotel ballroom. I just can't do it. So I just stepped away from that, and that was scary. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? But what that showed me was, wow, when I unplugged, I actually got a few more clients.
Wow.
Like when I unplugged off the circuit of busy.
Mm-hmm.
And just had like some basic things going. Well, it was kind of the same thing. There were basic things continuing to roll, and I trusted that I had built some things, but it did. I took a hit. Like people kind of forgot. They're like, oh, you're still around? When I came back out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We didn't know what happened to you. So it's been actually a little bit of a rebuild, and I had to get used to doing it in this new form called social media.
Uh-huh.
And I realized the authentic way for me was I had to see it as for me and not running me.
Oh, yeah. That's so good. One of my business mentors told me that. You should never let your business run you. You need to run the business, and it needs to be working for you and certainly not against you, and certainly not running over you and making you just completely overwhelmed.
Yes, because that is a quick ticket to burnout.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell the listeners about your new program, The Authenticity Advantage.
It's really so built on a lot of those dark nights of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mentioned the masks earlier, and that COOC mask was the one that I realized was really nailing me and was not letting me enjoy my life. Or it also wasn't really letting anyone else enjoy being around me.
Oh.
For very long, and specifically, the poor man I was in a relationship with at the time. Not a poor man. He and I are really good friends now, which is nice. But it's based on a lot of my own inner journey, and that's really where I've based so much of the work I've done anytime I've created a new program in my coaching world, because it's based on what I'm talking about with my clients. It's real. It's based on what I've been through. So it's proven. It's time tested, and it is a system to let women get current with themselves and who they are and what is their true longing and vision now. So we've got to make peace with the past. I know you're a fan of my affirmation cards. I keep drawing the one, interestingly enough, about forgiveness. To forgive, what is that one thing?
Yeah, forgive yourself for that one thing. Yes.
And so it is so much about the forgiveness. And we women have been really hard on ourselves. And, and I open this up. I mean, men are horrible to themselves, too. They're equally hard on themselves with exacting expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And so to step into authenticity and really see, like, those expectations have got to go. And my system is really about helping women identify what these things are on the timeline of their life. Let's make peace with them. Let's forgive them. And then let's turn our eyes forward to create what's really going to jazz you, what's going to make you happy. It's internal work, okay? This is not for, someone who just wants a quick fix. It's not step 1, 2, 3, you're done. It is some deep inner work. And that is where real change occurs, is when you're willing to go do the inner being work. So I want to reach more than just the people that I can work with one-on-one, because, of course, that's going to be a limited amount of people,
right?
Because we go that deep, which is why I've begun this monthly series. Next one rolls next Thursday, June 8th. And it is really going to be picking apart each the clear topics. Last month we talked about vulnerability. Next week we're going to talk about asking for help, which a lot of us really are pretty lousy at.
Oh yeah, I used to be. I'm pretty good at it now.
Yeah, until we're not, right? Until we get good at it,
Yeah.
But again, we're just not used to it. It's a new muscle. So,
yeah.
And there are masks. Like, there are masks associated with each one of these topics I'm going to be covering. And then I'm going to be leading a retreat in September up here on the beach, very close to me in Oxnard. And that's California, for everyone listening that is not California-based. And it's going to be a big, deep dive together. And the other thing I'm passionate about is circle work with women, bringing women together in circle. So everything I do with a group is I want it to feel like we're in a very sacred, safe space. And that real, honest, authentic connection to ourselves and to other people can occur.
Yeah. I think that's really important when we're even when we're dealing with, just our tribe, our close circle of friends, to, everything that we say and do and talk about we're going to hold it in the strictest confidence. I know I had a group of girlfriends from high school down to our beach home last weekend, and we do this once a year. We get together and, no children, no husbands, no significant others, and we're just us for the weekend. Mm-hmm. And we almost always get into deep discussions about our lives, our relationships, our hopes, our fears, our dreams, and we've been friends for so long. We've experienced the birth of children, the death of parents. One of my girlfriends, her mother recently died, and her father's in bad health, and so it's a safe place for us to be and to know that whatever we talk about that weekend, it's not going anyplace else.
Yes.
That's
it's
just
such a
really
beautiful
important.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. Yeah. And I think one of the greatest gifts we have is, I call it the sisterhood. It's the sisterhood circles that we create in our worlds and in our lives. And whether it's inside of, a tribe that we run with in business, or that inner, the deep friendships that we've had for years and years and years, it's such an important ingredient for all of us to have that container. And I will say, there are many women who stiff arm it. They're scared of it because they got hurt.
Right.
By either young girls in school or, somewhere down the line in a social circle as an adult or at work, Mm-hmm. And so they stiff arm. They kind of have I'm going to hold you at arm's length because I don't trust you. And there again, we've got those are masks that a lot of women are wearing. One of them I call "Man Up, Be a Dude." I'm like, wow, you really hate women? Wow, okay. And not that men hate. It's the perversion of this, mask that makes us see the world in such a very strange way. So to all the women who, maybe you don't feel too safe around other women, I want to support you in finding your sacred sisterhood circle. I want to support you in finding a way to open up to what is available there, because as we age, the statistics prove women tend to outlive men.
Yep. Yep, we do.
And man, I want my girlfriends there at the end if if my partner's not there.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your work with women, what keeps you inspired and motivated?
It's so funny. I mean, sometimes I get off a session with a client and I'm like, pinch me. Seriously, did I just get to have that conversation? I think it's the depth, it's the realness. It is the fact that a conversation can change somebody's life. I was with a client yesterday, and she had such a transformation. We had such a transformational session together prior to that, and we were doing some celebrating, and we both got, we were so connected, and so much emotion was flowing, and that is what opened the space for another leap of her evolution. So for me, I'm a personal growth junkie. I am going to hurl myself into, all right, Kat, this is about you, so let's go find out what it is, and let's look at it and pull it apart and do something. So it's the gift of getting it. What inspires me is supporting someone else to pull something apart and to see the truth and then choose the action forward that really supports them, nourishes them, and, makes that difference. So I'd say it's the conversations that inspire me.
Yeah, and then the change that you see in the client, that the light bulb moments. That is great.
And
I love
I'll be honest, sometimes those light bulb moments make a light bulb go off in my head. I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
love
do that
learning.
Too. Shit.
Yeah. I love learning things from my own clients. It's like, oh, wow, I did not know that. Let me put that in my bag of tricks.
Yeah. And, the other thing I want to just talk about, if I can, because this is, I know health and wellness in our body is so important for you, but so many women, their bodies bear the brunt of how they feel about themselves.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And I guess it was when I entered sometime that perimenopause time, and all of a sudden, I want to drop a couple of pounds. Okay, so I won't, I won't have a cocktail, and I won't have this, and then it would, right itself. But all of a sudden, it wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
and the scale crept up, and I was like, And then I realized how mad I was, and my body went, wait. Let's not be mad. Let's love. Let's love. Your message is love, Kat. That's what I'm a love junkie too, and so I decided to love my body healthy, and that's what I'm in the middle of right now. Because again, I hit another cycle. Crazy busy work. Menopause is fully here. The weight has come on that I'm like, we're stopping that. And so instead of harassing myself, I call it, okay, time to halt the assault. And just come back to love. Love, love, love your body.
Yeah, I wrote an article about that recently in the Missing Piece magazine. We had one of our editions was about self-love. And I shared about this in my book, Eat, Drink, and Be Merry Through Menopause, that my struggle with my own health really started as a result of my mother's death when I was 18. Yeah. And I was in a place where I just didn't care about anything. And I didn't care about my health. I didn't care about what happened to me. And because I did not eat the right things and I just didn't take care of myself, I had some really significant health problems. And so what you're saying rings true in my life, especially back then. But then, we go through phases in our life where we're not really loving ourselves. We're not taking care of ourselves because we're busy taking care of other people. We're taking care of kids and partners and spouses and homes and businesses. Yeah. And we get to a place where we're not taking care of ourselves. And I even found that in myself about a year ago when I was getting ready to launch my book. And, I was so busy with the business that I fell off of my normal routine. I wasn't exercising as much. Not that I wasn't eating right. I was still eating right, but I wasn't in the routine. I wasn't doing the small meals every couple of hours, healthy snacks. I was drinking enough water. I got to where I was taking care of other things more so than I was taking care of myself. So I think we have to be mindful of that when seasons in our life change and when events come around that cause us to kind of get off of the path of, really taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves no matter where we are. You just have to be mindful of that. Don't let it creep up on you.
Well, and if it does, be mindful that that's all that's going on. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You're not bad. You don't, because that's a quick ticket for all the saboteurs to come out of their slimy little caves and beat the living daylights out of you. And that just makes it worse.
Yeah. I always tell my clients, if you fall off the healthy eating wagon and, you find a couple of pounds have come on or you're feeling sluggish, don't beat yourself up. You're human. You made some choices that weren't exactly right, but you can always get back on the healthy eating wagon, take care of yourself. So I always tell them, don't beat yourself up for, making a couple of wrong turns on the road.
Absolutely. And that, that's whether it's eating or, something in our business. One of the things I can really still be so hard on myself for is, because I'm a big list maker. I love my list. I love to check them off.
Me too.
And, if I've got a list with some dangles on it at the end of the day, I can be really hard on myself. Like, oh, wow, you must have wasted time somewhere because this should have been possible. When, no, it really wasn't possible to have got this all done.
Because your list was impossible in the first place. That's where I end up.
Exactly. And of course, you star the things that are the musts and all that, but there's still a way that we hold ourselves to such an impossible bar.
Yep.
I used to do it to myself with exercise. I'd go out for a run on the beach and I'd, walk down to the jetty and then I'd say, all right, I'm going to run back to the pier. And I get there and I go, oh, that wasn't far enough. Keep going. Well, what did you just tell yourself, Kat? And I found myself doing that and I stopped running and I just started laughing. I was on the beach just laughing. So I was like, really? How about we go back to the pier and celebrate? You did that without stopping this time,
Yeah. Well, tell me, what advice would you have wanted your younger self to know? I can't wait to hear this answer.
Okay, so I've got when you asked that, like 3 versions of my younger self popped up. So I'm going to go to all 3 of them. So the little 8-year-old. The little 8-year-old whose life changed very dramatically when her daddy almost died. I want to tell her, don't take this on. It wasn't about you.
Wow.
Don't take this on. It wasn't about you. Because I think I decided that if I could just be the perfect child, then Daddy would stay alive.
Yeah. Wow.
And then we're going to fast forward to my teenager self. I was an early bloomer. So I kind of curved my shoulders around so that people wouldn't notice how large my boobs were getting when I was younger. And I was tall, like the height I am pretty early on. And again, that's not excessively tall, but, tall for junior high boys and whatnot. And I would just say, stand up straight and be proud. Be proud of who you are. You're beautiful.
Wow.
And then I think what I would tell the 20-year-old, don't make it so hard. don't make it so hard. It doesn't have to be so hard.
If we could just go back in time, things would be so different.
I know, just envisioning myself and saying those things, and my heart is just, I've got so much compassion for that little girl and that teenager and that early 20s. You know, and honestly, this is a great exercise to do at all, you know, like pick a decade, you know, and work on a decade for like a week at a time and say, wow, you know, if I were really wanting to heal that aspect and really hold that little girl who was so hurt and so scared, and, you know, like doing that now is so powerful. It can shift, not what happened. It doesn't change history. You know, I'm not talking about rewriting history, but it helps you write the script forward. And that's what I think the gift of middle age is. We get to write the script forward. For that we're the heroine. We get to be the protagonist. We're no longer the one who has things done to them. We get to be in charge of the script. No, circumstances are going to happen. We can't control that. But we're in charge of the script of how we're going to be with ourselves.
Well, and I love that because so much of, I think, what we deal with at our age has to do with unforgiveness of ourselves at all those different places in our lives. Just like you said, when, you know, you look back and you see these 3 different places in your life that, oh, I wish I could have told myself this back then. And so much of that has to do, I think, with our lack of forgiving ourselves for the way we were or the things we did or the things we didn't do. And we let so much of that cloud our judgment and our daily lives in this place in our lives where we should be, in my opinion, when we're at where we are now in our lives, this should be basically the time of our lives, I think, you know, because for most of us, you know, our kids are grown, we're having grandchildren, we have, you know, we're more financially stable than we were when we were in our 20s or 30s. We have the ability to go and do the things that we want to do. So this should be the most beautiful time of our lives. But so many of us get stuck in the crap that happened, you know, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, that we can't get to that place now in our 50s where it is beautiful, you know?
Where it's so beautiful. And we are so beautiful. Like the radiance coming off of a middle-aged woman is spectacular. When she is in her center, when she is in her core of self-love, of self-acceptance, you know, not fighting. You know, I one of my favorite things to tell my clients, you know, and I started this in my 40s, was, okay, if you're wearing that skirt and you're tugging on it, go get a longer skirt. You tugging on the hem is not going to make it all of a sudden longer. You are uncomfortable. If you're twitching your hair around, there's some discomfort going on. Let's get at that. What is that discomfort? Let's go straight at it so that we can heal it. We can move forward from it.
You know, I can look at pictures of my mother when she was younger, and she was always beautiful, but when she was in her late 40s and early 50s, she was 51 when she died. I think she was the most beautiful as she got older because she had come into herself. You know, she had done the things she was supposed to do as a mother and a wife, and the kids were raised. And when you look at pictures of her in the months before she died, she was more beautiful to me then than she ever was. And my husband tells me all the time that he thinks that I get more beautiful as I get older. And we've been together for 15 years. So he knew me before I even hit 40. Yeah. And it's funny that he says that because I think the same thing about my mother, that she just, as she aged, she became more beautiful. And I really think it does have to do with what is on the inside of us more so than what's on the outside that makes us radiate, like you were saying.
Well, you know, that when we accept who we are, when we accept the true version of ourselves and not what the saboteurs tell us, when we can accept, when we look out and see the impact we've had on those we love, or the impact that we've even had on ourselves,
yeah,
it's really quite something.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of beauty, that radiant beauty from within, that's so connected to love. I've seen pictures of me when I was grieving. And I think, wow, where's the light?
Yeah.
The light wasn't present. And I think it's the light that shines forth from our heart and our souls that makes that radiance. And that's the vulnerability. We're not masked at that point. We're showing our truth. We're showing our love.
Wow. So, Kat, what is coming up next for you? I know we have the authenticity advantage, but are there other projects or things across the horizon that are coming up in your world?
Well, I've been I've been saying recently. I've reconnected recently with a book that I began. It's fourth or fifth draft at this point, and it's a passion of mine. It's called the Iberian Chronicles, and it's about a healing journey I took instead of surgery. Because I'm passionate about us taking charge of our lives, of our bodies as women.
Yes.
And as men. We can all go sit in a doctor's office and all of a sudden turn into 5-year-olds when we see the white coat, and that's just not where we need to be. We need to be in that self-advocating place, or bring someone along with us who can be our advocate and ask those tough questions. But, I'm a surgeon's daughter, so I am not afraid of questioning the white coat.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that journey of authentically asking myself, no, all right, they're saying surgery. What do I know? What do I think is true here? What needs to happen for me? But being the surgeon's daughter, I, of course, booked the surgery in case what I was doing didn't work. But it did work. And, it's my passion. So I'm saying it publicly here because I am committed to completing this book, and I want it in people's hands because I know it will help people.
You have spoken it into the universe, and now it shall come to pass.
It shall come to pass. And I've got two weeks set out. I've got a week off booked off in July just for that, and a week booked just for that in August. So it will happen.
That is great. That is great. I can't wait to read it. I know it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. And then the retreat is September 15th through the 17th, and it is going to be unbelievable. It's at a beautiful resort with a spa attached and right on the beach. There's a lot of ceremony and sisterhood time and some deep work with the masks, taking them off, really getting clear on the one that is the primary for you and understanding it and its impact, and then really removing it ceremonially and with creativity. I think when we bridge all those things together, just huge transformation occurs.
Now, how can women find out about this event? Where can they get information or ask questions or sign up for the event?
Great. So right now they can get involved for, it's the complimentary monthly series I'm doing. I've got it posted on my Facebook page. You can just find me at Kat Willeford on Facebook, or you can also go to my page, which is Authenticity Advantage Women's Circle. So information is there about how to register for next week's if you want to dive in with some awesome rock star women. We had, I think, 12 or 13 on the first call last month, and people were just sharing so beautifully and authentically. And the website is not up yet for the event, but it will be very, very soon. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an instant message on, Facebook, or I love to be in conversation. You send me an email or ping me on Facebook. We will get together on the phone or, Zoom and have a chat, a virtual coffee chat. My email is Kat, C-A-T, at katwilleford.com.
And Willeford is Williford. www.katwilleford.com. So the Facebook page for the women's series is the Authenticity Advantage Women's Series. Is that correct?
Without the V, it's just Authenticity Advantage Women's Series.
Okay. So if they go to that page on Facebook, they'll be able to get the information about how to participate in next week's call, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And I'm going to try my best to be on the call this coming week. I've got a couple of things on my calendar that I'm trying to move around so I can be free at that time. Since I'm 2 hours ahead of you, sometimes it's hard for me to move stuff around, but I'm going to do my best to be on it this week because I really want to just kind of dive in and experience what is going on in that group because I know it can not only benefit me personally and professionally, but I think what we take away from it can also help us as we deal with, other people in our lives, other women that we come into contact with. And I think it's something well worth the listeners looking into and joining in. And it's free. It's absolutely free.
And there are no replays. By the way, and at first I thought, well, in fact, I recorded the first one. I was like, I am so not sharing this. I mean, people were so vulnerable with their shares and so deep. I was like, I'm not sharing this. This goes nowhere. This goes in my delete files, what happens with that recording.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Because I want it to feel like a ceremony. I love leading women's ceremonies, and I want it to have that feel, and it already does, and I'm so excited about that, the depth of sharing. And the beautiful thing is, it's not only what we say, but it's what we hear somebody else say that resonates for us or that has us take on, oh, wow, I haven't seen it that way before. So there's just ahas, epiphanies, sharing, and just freedom. I was sensing so many of the women in our last one, there was just some freedom flowing.
Wow, that's great. I love that. So everyone can feel confident that what they share is only going to be in that group. It's not made public. It's not replayed on some public platform. So that's really good to know. Well, the last question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to just say because one of the things in that the session last month, someone said, "Okay, now where do we go? What do we do?" They wanted to stay in community. So I started a Facebook group. And would be happy for you to join it. If you want to join the group, send me an instant message, and it's the Authenticity Advantage Sisterhood Circle, and it really is it's a closed group, so it's not public, so what you state in there will only be seen by the members, and the conversations have been rich so far. So if that's, if you want to have an online forum also for that kind of vulnerability and sisterhood support, that's available as well. So just instant message me if you'd like to join that group. Happy to put you in there.
That is great. Well, the last question that I have for you as we wrap up, I can't believe the hour is already gone, is I want to ask you who inspires you today?
Wow. Oh, so many people inspire me. And, the theme, when I step back just for a moment, the theme is always about authenticity. Mm-hmm. When someone is truly authentic, they inspire me. And you can tell when someone is being authentic. I mean, honestly, Donnie, you inspire me. You jumped in and took on this new element of your business with such gusto and commitment, and what it's created and generated is just beautiful to see. So you have inspired me a great deal.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for saying that. That makes my heart smile.
Yeah, really. I mean, and I when you and I spoke 2 years ago, and you were talking about it, I said, oh, yeah, you need to talk to Joey Garrity. And you're like, okay, I will. And so, what inspires me is your willingness to learn and then take the action and keep learning and taking the action. So that inspires me like crazy. And I'll be honest, the coaching organization that I train for, the Coaches Training Institute, the three founders, one who's no longer on the planet, they continue to inspire me, the ones who are still here, Karen and Henry Kimsey House, because they don't just rest on their laurels. They continually stretch their programs and create new. And their coaching program is now delivered in, 25 languages. We're in more than 50 countries around the world that teaching people to be coaches. So that inspires me, that kind of organic, continually growing, continually offering new things in the world.
Wow.
And then if we go to people who, are famous, I think the person who has got a lot of my attention right now, actually, several people are popping to mind here. Ashley Judd.
Oh, interesting.
Because she's willing to speak her truth.
Yep.
I don't know if it's still going or not, but she helped create a new cosmetic line with Estee Lauder.
Right.
That was lower priced, and she wanted to be able for women to no matter what your income is, to feel beautiful, to wear whatever makeup you want to wear, to enhance beauty. It's called, I think it's American Beauty. But like that inspires me. People who are honest and are willing to speak their truth. And it's scary. There are times when I'm not sure I want the microphone to say exactly what I think because my mouth has gotten me in trouble before.
Myself included. Well, I cannot believe that our whole hour is up, and we could go on talking for just hours about the things that we've talked about today, and I just appreciate you so much agreeing to come on my show and be my guest today. And I know that our listeners, whether they were listening live or listening to a replay on iHeart, that they are just going to be so inspired by you, Kat. So thank you for being my guest today.
I hope they are inspired. If they do just one thing, just take one thing away, that makes me happy.
That's great. Well, let me take just a minute to thank the staff at Bold Radio, my wonderful producer, Nesha, that I could not do this show without. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to come into your home or your car or your desk at work or your earphones while you work out at the gym. So let me know where you are listening from, and be sure and join me again next week at the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, noon Central Standard, for another Hot Mamas Living Better at Any Age. And now, listeners, you know what to do. Go out and be the hot mama you were destined to be.